Call the meeting of the Skagit PUD Commissioners to order. The date is October 25th. The time is 4:30, and I ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, justice for all.
All right, so at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 5.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Let's see, audience comments. Is anyone here wishing to offer comments? Not seeing anyone in the room. If you are on Zoom, you can use the raise your hand function there. Not seeing anyone there either. We will move right into the manager's reports.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Good afternoon. Got a few updates I can share with everybody. Just to follow up on some items that we've been working on. So the strategic plan, we're making some final edits in preparation for bringing the plan back to the board at the next meeting on November 8th. So the goal is to present the version on the 8th. Won't have the graphics, it's just going to have the content, and we're going to put that forward for approval. That means there's going to be a lot of things on that agenda, including, depending how the work sessions go, the budget might be on that agenda for approval. So it's an appropriate time to bring the strategic plan for approval at the same time. So some upcoming things. You should have saw an email from Wakuda about their annual conference in Spokane at the end of November. So if there's any interest in attending, kind of know for registration in this hotel. Walks set aside. There are awards that are presented at the annual conference. There's an email about that. There's a few different awards. One of them is an educational award that every PUD is allowed to nominate one person from their PUD or employee's child who's going to be graduating and offer the education scholarship. So that's one that we usually submit somebody for, and I'm expecting a couple of applications for that later this week. So if I get more than one, I'll let you all know and forward the information to you, because then we have to select one. And then, like I said, they make those awards at the end of the conference.
George, we had one already, didn't we? Or was that last year?
What's that? Last year.
That was last year?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That went
Yes.
fast.
You blinked, didn't you?
It seems like it was just yesterday.
Right.
We did, yeah. And the annual conference last year, I don't even think they had it. They didn't even do it virtually because there's not technical sessions as part of the annual conference. It's more like team building stuff and informational things. So unless you're there in person, it doesn't really have a lot of value. So they haven't been doing it for the last couple of years. This will be the first time in 3 years I think they did it, or that they're going to do it. But it's in Spokane, a little bit of a trip. So if you're interested, just let us know. There's a meeting over at the port tomorrow afternoon to discuss some SkagitNet plans of the 2023 budget for SkagitNet. So Brian and Alistair and I are going to attend that meeting, and I'll fill you in at our next meeting on the 8th. There's some employee events going on that just let you know. Tomorrow there's a scavenger hunt related to Halloween and potluck, and then Monday, the day of Halloween, everybody's returning their pumpkins for the carving contest, and there's a costume contest as well. So if you're interested, I think you can just come to the building with your costume on, and we'll take a picture of you and include you in the contest if you like. So I'm being serious. Just come with your costume on and participate. You all have costumes at home, right?
I thought
Do
it
you
was
wear
today.
it?
All the time.
Really?
There's gonna be a lot of us in costume, so you'll fit right in. You won't stick out at all.
Last year I came without one and I did stick out because I didn't have one.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be, the judging is gonna occur in the afternoon, so come in the morning with your costume and we'll get a picture. Let's see, some department stuff. So the budget, so today we're doing work session 2. After new business, we're gonna just interrupt the meeting, do the work session, and then come back to the meeting. On November 8th, like I was saying earlier, we can do another work session if you 3 feel the need to have another work session, if you have questions or concerns, or want us to go back over anything. Or if there's not a desire to do that, we can put up the budget for adoption on the 8th. And I guess after today's work session, we can decide which way we want to go with that based on your feedback. Let's see, there's a lot of stuff going on with projects. There's a project right now to repair the road up to Building Creek intake. So that was started last week and we're making good progress before the rain started. So that was nice. Transmission line project is continuing. We're doing pressure testing and back T testing on the pipe. Another large section is going to be have their testing completed tomorrow. So that's good. Rubber, water treatment plant, that's being replaced. And so that's currently under construction. Making good progress on that. And then Mike let us know that finally now, after nearly 2 years, we're getting delivery of some vehicles that we ordered. So there's been a logjam for 2 years, right? You guys all know the chip shortage and everything else. And so we are getting a couple of pickup trucks this week, hopefully.
Is that part of the scavenger hunt then? When you look around and-
That's actually a good point, yeah. 3 trucks. No, because if you go out into our yard, you have to have your safety vest on. So it's, it's hard to coordinate all of that. Let's see, so that's that stuff. And today we had some maintenance on our building done. Our maintenance department installed 2 backflow assemblies in our building. So I don't know if you drove by, but we were out of water for a little while this morning, but the maintenance department did a quick job in installing backflow assemblies here, 2 of them, and got us back in the water before lunch. So that was nice. And Kathy's going to do an update on HR stuff, so we'll get into that, but that's all that I have, unless there's any questions.
We're good.
No, thank you.
All right, Kathy. HR updates.
Hi, Kathy.
A staffing update. Oh. Okay. So since the last meeting, had a couple of changes. So Amy Borg was hired as our yard maintenance technician, and Amy actually started as a 5-month seasonal employee, because typically every year we have a yard maintenance person that's a seasonal person, and we decided that the operations department decided that they wanted to determine the need for a year-round position. So we made an agreement with the union that for a temporary period of time, up to 2 years, she would be included in the bargaining unit, but we would assess during that time to determine whether there was an operational necessity to keep that position year-round full-time. And if not, we can revert back to the prior practice of having it be a seasonal non-union position. But we got lucky with Amy. She was a really hard worker, so she was already in that position. So we're going to assess as we go along and see how that works. And then promotions, we had our long-term maintenance foreman retire. And so Ron Hummerkhouse was moved out of the maintenance, well, still in the maintenance department, but moved into the foreman position, which was good because Ron had a lot of previous experience in that role. He'd filled in over the years. He was really good at, he had the skills that we needed, and it sounds like it's working out really well so far, and it's certainly helping Patrick. So far, so good. And then upcoming, we are currently hiring for a couple of positions. Maintenance, we're looking for 2 people, one to replace Ron, and then also an open position that's been open for a while. And then water treatment plant to replace an employee who moved, and then the accountant position because Sally is moving down south. And so we are advertising for that. For maintenance so far, we've got 77 applicants. For the water treatment plant, we have 30 and then 21 for the accountant, which I don't know if you've talked to other entities locally, but that's quite a bit. So we're doing really well in getting a good number of applicants.
Treatment plant, is that a full operator or is that like an operator in training?
It's
or-
a full operator.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, who knows? We'll see what we find. We have to be flexible.
Yeah.
So we will be incorporating some other reclassifications as part of our comp study. So those are just a part of our continuing process of determining our operational needs and how best to meet them with staffing moving forward. So just a couple of reclassifications to best utilize the employees that we have. So that's it on staffing, and then we'll get to comp study, which has taken up a lot of time recently. So just kind of retrace the steps that we've talked about before. So the first step in this process is updating all of our job descriptions for non-represented employees. So that has been complete for a while. Step 2 is gathering pay comp information from our comparator agencies and sources. That is also complete. Establishing position matches and gathering that pay information, that is also complete. Thanks in no small part to Shannon's efforts and also Krista. So thank you to those two ladies. Step 4 in that process was entering all the pay data using the methodology that we established in our 2017 comp system, and that is also complete. And then step 5 was assembling all the information, reviewing to determine ranges, adjustments, and internal equity, including getting some leadership team feedback for their employees. So that is in process. George and I met yesterday. We'll be meeting again tomorrow to do some work on this. And then our plan is to review our findings and information with the leadership team on Monday to get their feedback and input. So step 6 in that process is going to include all the information and changes for 2023 into the budget process. So there will be a new 2023 salary range resolution. Our plan is to include that in the meeting on November 8th. And then the last step in that process is communicating all that information and the changes to employees. I will say that there's always challenges whenever you're doing a comp study and trying to incorporate that information. As we've talked about, especially Andrew, I know you've mentioned this several times, it's important for us to be an employer of choice. We have more candidates for our positions than other entities locally and beyond, which is a good thing. We want to attract good people and keep the good ones we've got, but we also need to be mindful of the fact that we can't necessarily create an unwieldy pay system that's hard to, move forward. So we want it to be feasible, but we also want to compensate people fairly and in proportion to the market, and also reward good performance and longevity. But it's always a balancing act. Brian, of course, has to keep an eye on the money that we're spending, but we also, I suppose for any entity, it's going to be a balancing act, but we're doing our best. All right. And then we just did some flu shots and wellness checks. Unfortunately, we didn't have the same participation that we normally do, but I think it's just due to the tail end of COVID. Some people working remotely, some people don't even want to hear the word vaccine. So we are where we are. But what we provided was flu shots. This year was somewhat new in that we also added the mumps, measles, and rubella, the MMR, Hep B, and also the Tdap, tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, so whooping cough. Yes, thank you. So, and we did wellness checks again. So we had 19 employees that got the flu shots, 4 received other vaccines, and we did 14 wellness checks. So our hope is that we can have a full wellness fair in 2023. So fingers crossed on that. It's been a while. True Benefits has indicated that they have helped other employers, so they may assist with that process. So that's great. I mean, they might as well if they've done that before. So it is a lot of work to arrange that. So if we can get help from them, that would be great. Any questions so far? Okay. Training Day 2022. So that's in process. So our tentative plan for Training Day is going to be similar to last year. We do hope to resume in-person trainings and all hands meetings next year. It was interesting because we did ask for employee input, not only from our leadership team, but for employees. When I sent out service award requests this year, I also invited people to give us their feedback. Even in a recent leadership team meeting, there were no two same answers about what people like or want. So it's been a challenging 2.5, almost 3 years. Many of us, including George and I, want things to go back to normal sooner rather than later. But morale, I mean, I think personally that morale is better for most when people can feel connected. And it would be great to do an in-person event. But what we're struggling with is that we also need to be mindful of what's safest and most appropriate under the circumstances. And I'm sure you've heard about the new variants that have started to proliferate. So the bottom line is that it may not be best to do in person this year, depending on where we are. So as much as we would like to, but we're going to evaluate, and I think we can make that determination as it gets closer. So, all right, upcoming projects. So just a couple things to talk about. All right, so our plan is to revisit the remote work issue soon. We spent some time updating this and preparing for a return to more normal operations, probably about 5 months ago, 6 months ago, before the Omicron wave hit. So it was paused, but our intent is to revisit that when it's appropriate to do so. And returning to normal operations, that transition, it's been interesting because in all the HR trainings and meetings that I've attended, this has been a really big topic of discussion. Some of the issues specifically include just the long-term effects of COVID and fatigue. I mean, it's really setting in. We know that. Quiet quitting is also an issue because people are there, but they're not engaged. Hiring, it's difficult to find people for almost any entity right now. We're fairly lucky, but it's not as easy as it used to be. So other concerns include supply side issues that affects everyone in the work environment, morale issues caused by perceived differences. Some can work remote, some can't. That's been a challenge at times. So we do want to transition back to a new normal. Things won't be exactly the same, but we do want more consistency with our operations and schedules, and we want to provide information to employees about what that looks like. I think there's no way around the fact that we'll have to be a bit more flexible moving forward. There was a time when saying that working remote wasn't operationally feasible, but that time is past. So even as a public employer, I think that's something that we'll have to keep in mind. So also employee training initiatives. Employees are due for a discrimination and harassment training other than the online webinar type training. One of my goals pre-COVID was to begin a diversity, equity, and inclusion program at the district, and COVID kind of changed things temporarily. So I would like to revisit that because I think it's time for us to focus more on that, particularly as a public employer, and not just the rote training. I think that we can, the new acronym that's being used now is JEDI. So it's Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, likely early in 2023. So I'm not sure if that'll be Zoom or in person, but I think it's time for us to provide training that's a little more in keeping with the times. So let's see. Updates to some policies and procedures. Looking back over the past few years, we have updated many of our policies, procedures, and processes. I think many were out of necessity and responding to emergent issues like our continuity of operations, fitness for duty, new holidays. A new holiday was added, short-term disability to reflect changes to the laws, and then others that were just needed to reflect changes to legislation or to work through specific issues. So I think now moving forward, we do want to look at doing some cleanup. I think some of our policies really do need to be updated. Some can be eliminated, and also where do we need clarification? Some new ones may be necessary. So another thing that we're looking at is department records organization. Now that I'm no longer a department of one, and I have someone who isn't afraid to say, why are we doing things that way? It doesn't make sense. It's a really good time to start updating some processes. That includes eliminating paper records where it's feasible, getting a better organizational structure to all the HR records from the past 8 years. We're much better than the prior practices. We didn't previously have good documentation. We do now, but it does keep a lot of, it creates a lot of stuff to keep track of. So that's one of our goals for 2023. So that's all I have to talk about, unless you guys have any questions.
Very complete.
Such exciting stuff, right?
That's great.
You talk fast.
I do, I know. Whenever I listen to myself after, yeah, I do.
You're efficient with your.
That's something I try to keep in mind, but yeah, it's exciting stuff for us. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, so next up is item 8. Under new business, and this is a project acceptance and resolution 2294-22 approving the waiver of connection fees paid by the Housing Authority of Skagit County. Looks like Mark has it.
Well, it's gonna be me unless you have any tough questions. I don't know, honestly, I think the memo explains it best. The upshot of this is we charge system development fees for this project. The county has a funding opportunity that requires us to waive the fees in some manner. And then they are going to pay us for those fees. So it's a waiver on paper, essentially. And I don't know for sure, but I think the way the grant, so we are whole. We're not giving up, there's no money, but this allows them to get money from an outside funding source. I think that the way that this was, I think it's set up this way because most municipalities also provide water. So they would be waiving the fees and then just taking the income directly to their coffers. So for the project. So I think it's a little unique with the PUD, and that's why it's being conducted this way. But the upshot is we're even, and the state is helping funding a county program, which is great.
So I would be looking for a motion to adopt resolution 2294-22.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2294-22, approving the waiver of water connection fees by the Housing Authority of Skagit County.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
So I would just, as a point of clarification, because we do get these requests from time to time from other municipalities, just that we communicate the fact that, just like you said, Mark, we're being made whole so that when City of Burlington comes back or City of Mount Vernon and says, hey, you did this for the county, I can't do it. Fine. However, when you double click, the fact is that we're being made whole. And so I would just encourage the messaging of that to be such that this isn't a one-off. This is a creative wording.
I think Kevin helps with those things.
Yeah,
well,
right.
well,
Good
yeah.
luck,
He's
Kevin.
been on these things too. Kind of an external.
But on occasion, then my phone will blow up or you get,
Yeah.
for
sure.
Mhm.
So,
For sure.
Well, we had that request a while back with another
yeah,
municipality.
right.
so-
And that's because it takes hours of unpacking on our hand. It first touches, okay, here you go. And this is what you had me at. It
Yeah.
makes us whole.
All right, so next up is item 9, and Sam, are you presenting this, or we
I
just
can-
just an
I can fill you
informational? It looks just more informational, I think, but
It is, yeah. This is an informational topic about the PSE Community Solar Program. And so there's no requested action. It's just to inform the board that, we responded to an RFP by PSE to propose some sites that we own and where they could put in some solar panels for community solar. And we put forward the Division Street tank site and Judy Reservoir, I believe. What was the second site, wasn't it? We just did one. Okay, so we put forward that. They like that site up at the Division Street tank. So we had a conference call with them 2.5 weeks ago, went through some stuff, and part of what's included in here is a term sheet. And so this is just information for you. These are the terms that PSE wants us to agree to, and they install the solar panels. They're ground mounted solar panels on Division Street. There's no cost to us. There's actually, we lease them the site to do it. So there's some revenue stream, not very much. But there's no other benefit to us specifically. It's not that the power is generated and then we use it. This is a community program that is made available to some people in the community if they apply for reduced rates. So there's no harm in us doing it. This is part of our vision to be an outstanding regional leader and innovative utility provider. We've got a site that they like that can generate power. So we thought, sure, we can go into business with our partner, BSE, and informational with all those items. And if you have any comments on the term sheet that's in the packet, let us know if you have any concerns. We're going to talk to PSE about maybe if there's some other things we can add in here, because not every term sheet has to look exactly the same, right? You can negotiate something. So, but this is the initial one, the stock template that we wanted to show you. And just let us know if you have any comments or concerns. Again, there's no outlay of anything on our end. We just have to provide them access to the site. They're going to install them, they're going to maintain them, and generate power on our property.
So what's the field visit about tomorrow?
They just want to take a look at the site. So they have contractors that they work with that will bid on the project. And so they want the contractors to come in and look at the
Oh, I
site
see.
specifically, and then they'll give PSE a bid, and then PSE will select one of them to come and install it.
Mhm.
So I think
Okay.
we've got a couple of people going to the meeting. Ryan, Sam's going to be there. So just to show them around, give them access to the site, let them look. And then that's going to be our involvement, is when they need to get in there, we have to give them
Yeah.
access.
Yeah.
So the big thing is to understand that there's no other specific benefit to us. This is a community benefit, right?
Mhm.
So just to be clear.
Yep.
Yeah. Not that that's a bad thing, but
So with that, we will begin the budget PM and we'll temporarily adjourn this meeting and go into the budget work session. Reopen the commission meeting. Time is 5:44 and we are reconvening the commission meeting of the Skagit PUD. There's a couple information items in your packet. Any commissioner comments this evening?
I don't have any.
And with that, we will convene an executive session to discuss potential litigation per RCW 42.30.110, approximate time 10 to 20 minutes, no action after. All right, this meeting is adjourned.